It's been a great first 2 weeks of the DCI 2025 season, and the first headlines are starting to emerge. The Bluecoats did not get their first score until July 6th. However, I think they were pretty happy when they saw an 83.3 pop up on that recap. The battle for the Sanford Award is already heating up with some of the best cores out west showing what they've got, especially Santa Clara Vanguard, with Boston Crusaders and Blue Devils not far behind. And how about that Troopers percussion section? Carolina Crown is back on top of Phantom Regiment, outscoring the core at Drums Across the Smokies by about half a point. An interesting mix-up after the World Championship Finals had Phantom Regiment on top last year. I'm Andy Shama.
And I'm Natalie Shelton. This is your first DCI 2025 recap from the FloMarching team, where we talk about some interesting things happening across the landscape, as well as give you some insight into what the cores are posting on their social media, and things like show clips that we think are interesting.
So first off, we're going to talk about the scores, and why it might as well start at the top of the order. So these scores are ranked by most recent score, and of course the cores are competing at different events, getting seen by different judges, and competing against different cores, and all those things will affect their scores. So take this all with a grain of salt as we move forward. And in first place, we have the Bluecoats getting a score of 83.3 at River City Rhapsody up in La Crosse, Wisconsin. Right behind them by half a point with an 82.8, the Boston Crusaders won out west at DCI West on Sunday night, with the Blue Devils a point behind them at the same event. Any thoughts about the top five, Natalie?
I really like this top five. It's very reminiscent of what we've been seeing over the last couple of years at DCI finals. The thing that's really impressing me so far is that Blue Coat score. To start off with your first scored show of the season, to reach an atmospheric 83.3 is just wild to see. So for them to start off with such a strong showing is really impressive. And, you know, We've come to expect that from the Bluecoats, especially after their winning season last year in 2024. I love seeing Boston in second place. I think there's definitely room for them to grow, and we've seen amazing things from their percussion section over the last couple years. And I'm really excited to see what the drums in particular do in San Antonio when we see them go head to head with a lot of their top competition in the percussion Caption.
With the Bluecoats, I was with them at their opening night show, and the energy at rehearsal, the energy on that evening was very tense, and not in a bad way. It was like they can't wait to get in front of an audience and show them what they've been working on. I know that is true for all of the drum corps, but being the reigning champion, there's a level of pressure that's just it's intangible for the other corps to really feel. This is one of the best battles, I think, at the top of the leaderboard for these corps that we've seen in quite some time, maybe even since around that 2014, 2015, 2016 era of drum corps. So it's been an exciting time to be a fan. I did want to give Boston Crusaders a shout out. Like you said, they have all these moments that they piece together throughout their show that create just an iconic drum corps show. A lot of people have been saying, is this the Velvet Knights of 2025? And yeah, there are some things where they lean into the comedy and they're not taking themselves so seriously, but at the end of the day, they're executing at a level that is just almost impossible to reach, it feels like, and already making it look easy in July. But it looks like there's a lot of momentum and changing happening in that bottom half of the order for finals, and right on the bubble it potentially, we're not even looking at 13th through the remainder 20 or so corps that are going to be battling it out for just to earn one more day of their season. Let's talk about the Caption leaders, Natalie. So who is leading the way when it comes to GE? I think that's the starting point for us, for any drum corps fan. GE, typically, if you win it, you win the championship. So who's in the lead right now?
Well, the Bluecoats right now are at the top of the table when it comes to general effect, with a 34.1 from their score at River City Rhapsody. It's definitely a category that you'll want to keep an eye on to see if they can continue that momentum, if someone will sneak up behind them and take that crown or not. We'll just have to wait and see.
Okay, so in the color guard Caption, we are looking at Bluecoats in the lead once again with a 16.8, but right behind them, you got Boston Crusaders. And once again, these corps are competing across the country from each other. And so there's going to be different things happening as they do compete head to head. But some really exciting numbers from the Bluecoats color guard to start the season. Carolina Crown right behind the Boston Crusaders, though, taking third right now with a 16.5. So really impressive numbers.
And then we've got the battle for the Fred Sanford Award with the percussion Caption. SCV is currently at the top of that table, but there's going to be a battle between them and Boston, Crown, Blue Devils, Bluecoats. It's really anyone's game, and we've seen that over the last couple of years with there being a different Fred Sanford winner for the last, I believe, 3 or 4 years, with SCV winning in 24, the Cavaliers winning in 23, and the Bluecoats winning in 2022. We haven't seen a back-to-back Fred Sanford winner in a while. Will this be the year for SCV to get that back-to-back? I don't know. As I said, I think Boston's one to watch. I think we can't ever count out the Cavaliers. That percussion section is so strong. We're just going to have to see what happens in San Antonio when all these groups get judged by the same panels, because I think it's going to be a super interesting time to look at those recap sheets and see what's going on and who's moving where.
One thing I noticed in the DCI West recap was that the Boston Crusaders' achievement score is actually 0.3 lower than their content score, which, usually alludes to the fact that they've got more room for improvement. And with an 8.4 to be the highest score in content at that event, the judges are clearly saying that they're playing the hardest book. It'll be interesting to see where they can match up with Santa Clara Vanguard as they continue to master their book. And right now, with an 8.3 across the board for Vanguard, in both content and achievement, it suggests that they're playing the book at the level that it is asking for. Definitely a race to heat up. And I know the Blue Devils are playing some really hard music, and we haven't even talked about the Bluecoats in regard to percussion. And there's a little bit of a staff changeover there with Joe Hobbs leaving to go to Carolina Crown. When I was there, they sounded great. I know that they're playing a really fun show. The pit is incredible every year with the Bluecoats, but I think the Battery this year in particular has taken a step forward. So who knows where that will all fall. Really, like you said earlier, San Antonio and next week in Texas, all these shows where they will go head to head is going to be our best chance to see these numbers and kind of make comparisons directly without having to put 2,000 miles, 3,000 miles in between them. One more thing on the percussion side before we move on is the Troopers. I called them out earlier. They have been absolutely killing it in the percussion realm. Their highest score being a 15.3 up to this point, putting them right behind Mandarins at DCI West. In the brass realm, you see Boston Crusaders leading the charge with a 16.5. Carolina Crown, unsurprisingly, God's Horn line, as Matt Harloff has said a million times in our Drop the Hammer videos, right there behind, though. And Phantom Regiment actually in third, also putting out some really great brass numbers. And if you've watched their show, that's not a surprise at all.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed the books that JD Shaw has been putting together for Phantom Regiment over the last couple years. So all shout outs to him and that staff over there. They're doing an excellent job of really honing in on that Phantom Regiment sound that they are, I think, achieving very effectively this year so far.
Couple standouts further down the order that I think have been sticking out for me. Music City and Spirit of Atlanta. Spirit of Atlanta we talked about a little bit earlier, but Music City is right there with them. And they were last year at finals, and they're kind of also surging. What have you seen there with Music City, Natalie?
That battle between Music City and Spirit of Atlanta is going to be really interesting, I think, over this entire season, and fans will get a chance to see them go head-to-head again this weekend at DCI Little Rock, and it will be streaming on FloMarching, so be sure to tune in and check out what happens at Little Rock between these two ensembles and the rest of the cast of corps that are going to be competing. So we talked a little bit about Little Rock. What else should fans be interested in tuning in for over these next couple of days, Andy?
Yeah, so we had our first chance to see some all-age corps, and now we're going to get a really good look at them this weekend at the Drum Corps Grand Prix. Yeah, we're going to see a lot of these all-age corps compete head-to-head. You have the Reading Buccaneers currently at the top of the order, which is not surprising to see, the Buccaneers, Caballeros, Bushwhackers all continuing to be successful. But this is a great chance to see them as they make their way towards the second ever all-age championships in Indianapolis, which is going to be expanded and even more exciting this year than it was last year. It's going to be a great week for West Coast Open Class Drum Corps over the next few days. They're just going to be all over FloMarching, with the end of their season happening now at the SoCal Open Class Championship, and Blue Devils B and some other corps not going to Indianapolis this year. This is your time to watch them and tune in. They are already good. They are clearly treating it like it's the end of their season if you watched what they were doing at DCI West. So make sure between the Western Corps Connection, the Gold Showcase, and the SoCal Classic, you get your fill of those West Coast corps.